Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL.
Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett. Gentlemen, are you ready to crack your playoff clinching Uncle Jumbos?
I'm so ready.
Oh, yeah. You are now joining us and listening because the Buffalo Bills have just defeated the Atlanta Falcons 29-15. Sadly, that's not scoregami. I even checked the website. It's happened 2 other times in NFL history. The Buffalo Bills have won 29-15. In addition, the Baltimore Ravens fell to the Los Angeles Rams, as well as some other interesting ones we'll talk about here. The Colts lost to the Raiders. The Chiefs lost to the Bengals. And the Buffalo Bills have clinched the playoff spot heading into Week 18 and still have the number 1 seed and first-round bye in play. Aaron Quinn, how are we feeling?
That Jumbo's is tasting ice. Put it on ice, man. Get some. Greg, you got to get some ice in one of your Bills tumblers.
Before each game, I put one in my fridge to have it ready to be ice cold to crack after the game. It's a process.
I got mine's ice cold, but anyways. I feel fantastic, guys. Here we are. This has been a roller coaster ride of a season, a roller coaster ride of a game, which we'll get into here today. Sort of a microcosm of the entire season playing out here in this game, but none of it matters. The Bills have now clinched a ticket to the playoffs. This is all that we've talked about. You just got to get in, especially in this weird year now where it looks like the Tennessee Titans are going to be the 1 seed. Like nothing matters. They're in the playoffs. That's all. Yeah. You punched your ticket and let's ride. This is awesome, man. I'm in a great mood.
Yeah. Anthony, as I've said a bunch of times this season, all things are on the table. And after today, the number 1 seed is still on the table for the Buffalo Bills. How does that sound?
It sounds really good, especially after all the years of, I was thinking about this yesterday to like kind of try and put things in perspective. Like we went so long with, because I know I'm a little younger than both you guys. So I missed out just on the 4 straight Super Bowl losses, which probably would have broken me mentally had I really been conscious for it. So my Bills playoff
it wasn't great. I'll give you a recap. Not great.
I've heard bad things. So my Bills playoff experience is...
Oh, wait, I got to interrupt you. It'll be fun.
Do it.
Richard Conley, our man, $5. Appreciate you. Cal jumping in here. I know it's early, but if you guys could get to discuss playoff seeding scenarios on Wednesday, that would be delightful. Thanks for all you do. Don't worry, we might dabble in some of it today.
What a little preview ahead. But yeah, a lot of my Bills playoff experience is them losing to the Natron Means Jaguars at home, then the Music City Miracle, and then Darkness. So it's just fun playoffs back-to-back, years of potential back-to-back division titles, 3 postseason appearances in the last however many years. And it's just, 4 now out of 5. It's just nice to be in the dance consistently and sit here and talk about playoff seeding. And are we the 3? Are we the 4? Can we get to the 1? Who would we potentially face? Scoreboard watching for the sake of seeing what first round matchups would be instead of scoreboard watching to hope that, well, we want this other team to win so we can get a higher draft pick because we're not going to make the playoffs for the 95th year in a row. It's just nice to be a part of that. And especially this year, like you guys both alluded to, so many scenarios, so many things can happen. Every team in the AFC has flaws and weaknesses. All you got to do is get in the dance. The Bills are in that dance. They can do some things to solidify their standing next week, but it's a fun time to be a Bills fan.
It's incredible. And, obviously we'll go through our, normal rundown for the show today, but it was honestly refreshing to see that they were able to switch gears in a game where the backbone of this offense and this team wasn't working the way that we, are used to seeing it work, and to pivot and put up the kind of performance that we'll get to in a moment here was really refreshing. And the reason that was the case is today, Josh Allen went 11 of 26 for 120 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. We'll talk about the running in a moment here. Wait, Dakota Winnie, a couple more games he had like today, and Josh might have been a Pro Bowler. He's not wrong. That is a very Lamar Jackson-esque box score. Now, I'll defend a little bit of the box score here. Several of those were smart throwaways and things like that for the completion percentage. Those weren't egregious, and it wasn't an 11 of 26 kind of day. And I even think there was a fair amount of bad luck in some of the interceptions, but ultimately, when you have 0 passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions, it's hard to describe that as anything other than a bad game. You know, I argued a little bit that we celebrate Josh Allen when he threads the needle on that first interception, that when he finds Diggs in the back of the end zone, oh my gosh, how did he fit that laser in there? We celebrate that all the time. So it feels hypocritical to me to be like, oh man, that was and Mark Sanchez rambling on and on of, oh, he's going to want that one back. We do cartwheels all the time when he pulls that throw off, and it was tipped. It wasn't like a defender undercut it and he just didn't see the defender. It got tipped at the line, it fluttered up in the air, and it got picked off. Those happen. But then he does it, has another one where him and Beasley aren't on the same page. Then another one where the ball gets tipped and goes directly into a linebacker's hands. None of Matt Ryan's tip balls landed in anybody's hands. All of them fell on the field. Aaron, how do you grasp? I don't think anybody's going to make the case that Josh Allen had a good passing day. He did not. Do you think it's as bad as the box score makes it look?
No, I mean, 1 touchdown goes right off Diggs' hands. So he easily could have had a touchdown on the board there. And then he took away 2 touchdowns in the air from himself by running them in as a red zone weapon that he is. So I don't particularly care where you get the touchdowns or where you get the production. I just want production. I had a friend text me after the game saying, if the Bills want to go anywhere in the playoffs, they need Allen to play better. And I think, yes, you want him to play better too. You don't want him to turn the ball over. But as you said, Greg, like some of those turnovers are fluky. I believe, I've been saying this for years now, you need a stat that is specific to what QB interceptions that are responsible from the QB, and then just like deflected, off a guy's hands, stuff like that, where, it's a wide receiver drop turns into a pick, or a deflected pass. Probably shouldn't be fully on quarterback and shouldn't count total towards them, but that's a different discussion probably for the off season. But it wasn't the best day for Josh Allen. Like you said, I think some of them were throwaways. And then they went away from, Josh having to be what moves this offense. I thought in the first couple quarters, actually, outside of the turnovers, they were moving the ball pretty well through the air. Like they were moving the ball up and down the field on this Atlanta defense through the air. It was going pretty well. And then after those couple turnovers, you saw Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll really lean back into the physicality of the run game. And I actually think that, that's also a good thing. I tweeted it out and we'll talk about when we get to the running backs, but building confidence in that going into the playoffs. We know what this passing attack can do when things are clicking on all cylinders. We have confidence in what Josh Allen's arm can do. The confidence has not been there in the run game, but you've seen it slowly build up here throughout the last couple of weeks. I think that's real important. We always talk about having to play your best ball at the right time and taking that momentum into the playoffs. Some of that's also gaining confidence in some of those areas that you aren't great in and heading into the playoffs. So then I think that is something that they established a little bit today. But Josh in the air, it wasn't great. Was not his best performance, but he's got plenty of opportunity here left to put together some more MVP type performances.
Well, before you talk about Josh Allen, Face a Bear here, which is a great name.
Awesome. And a great icon.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Talked about felt like such a playoff type game.
It really was.
The Bills hadn't clinched a playoff spot, and the Falcons were in a win, lose or you're out, or win or you're out scenario. It was a playoff game for both teams. Both teams needed to win this game in a playoff style format. So that's why it felt that way and why they had to pivot and do all those different things. And another quick one here. Dylan saying Josh Allen plays quarterback with the confidence and vigor of a man who had to have a triple XL cup, especially made to protect the set he possesses. I appreciate the manhood call out here. He certainly has played.
Is that what they call it? BDE?
I think that's what it's referred to as. And for? To be able, I hate you so much. But the game that he had, again, none of us are going to argue that he had a good passing day. He did not. But to then people are going to, believe me, I'm sure after the show, when I go back to my feed, Patriots fans are going to just cut the passing part of the box score and say, oh, look, Josh Allen was horrible today. No, he wasn't. Like, there was a lot of weird bad luck to that game. They punch in 4 touchdowns from within the 4-yard line that we normally pass those in. So overall, and Tristan here with another one, this is back-to-back no punt games. There's no scenario.
Although some of that was turnover, unlike the last
weirdness.
game.
Sure, but even those were on. They were never in a position where that was about to happen. Where like there was about to be a punt.
Sure.
Turnovers are bad. Turnovers are never good. But it's not like it was a turnover on 3rd and 14 where they were also going to punt. They were never really in a position where they were going to punt. Sean Wilkinson, Mark Sanchez critiquing quarterback runs is top tier content.
I thought Mark Sanchez was terrible, and my timeline was filled with a lot of people that I actually respect being like, "Wow, Mark Sanchez is doing a really good job. He's got a long career in this." And I was like, "Man, he's made more mistakes." I even said to my father-in-law, I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, "I might have to mute this." Like, it was pretty bad. It was
terrible. Our guy Padden here saying Josh had 5 completions after the first drive. The team adjusted well to support an off JA-17. That could pay dividends for Josh long term in confidence. And again, I'll give you a last second here for any final passing game thoughts, and then Anthony, talk about this running game today.
Running game was really solid, and I guess I'll just start with it from Josh Allen's perspective. I thought it was funny that my favorite fantasy sports thing ever is a fantasy hockey thing I always remember hearing about, where Wayne Gretzky was so dominant with the Oilers that in drafts you could either pick Wayne Gretzky goals or Wayne Gretzky assists. They were 2 separate things. You couldn't have.
It was unfair.
Correct. You couldn't have one holistic collective Wayne Gretzky. And I feel like that applies a little today for Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen legs was fantastic. Josh Allen arm, not so much. I'm very interested to go back and see the all 22 and see what Atlanta was doing, because especially watching a lot of Atlanta tape leading up to this game, there was so much room underneath. And I felt Josh had a couple of those today. Some of the runs that he took off for, he had guys open underneath, and it seemed like Atlanta was just presenting looks that were making things difficult for Josh on the back end. And other than AJ Terrell, who was phenomenal, their secondary was banged up and not in the position to really, I thought, go toe-to-toe with the Bills, even with the weather included. So I'm really interested to see what that looked like. But yeah, not an optimal performance from Josh Allen with his arm, but with his legs, good decisive running, protected the ball, first downs, touchdowns, key rushing moments. And collectively, I thought that running game, whether it was stemming from the energy that Josh was bringing in the run game or just how things worked out, the running game had such a physicality to it today. Devyn Singletary running through people, Zach Moss running through people. It seemed like the Bills running backs, I'll throw Josh Allen in that mix as well, most of the time, they were consistently falling forward, whether it was to gain an extra yard to get the first or just turn a 4-yard gain into a 5-yard gain or a 6-yard gain. That was so encouraging to see from we've seen it from Josh, so I'll start to separate from him a little bit now. But in talking about Singletary and Moss, seeing them win in one-on-one scenarios, especially Devyn Singletary, seeing him juke out defenders and get upfield, seeing him run through defenders and get upfield, the patience that he showed in the run game as well. The second touchdown was really nice. He goes to the left and he's like, he kind of pitter-patters, but not because he's pitter-pattering. He's waiting to set up his block, and then he explodes through. He gets the one-on-one opportunity with Hall, attacks the shoulder, and gets in the end zone. We saw good decisive running, good downhill running from both running backs today. And as Padden's comment earlier mentioned, I thought it really worked in supporting an off Josh Allen with his arm today. The fact that the Bills could pivot to that run game in conditions that helped it a little bit against the defense that holistically was very bad, especially from a DVOA perspective, but especially against the run. They were not good. And it was nice to see the Bills be able to take advantage of that weakness, lean on their running backs, and help alleviate some of the pressure that Josh had on him today.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things, looking at it holistically, you're talking about 44 carries for 233 yards, 5.3 yards a carry, 4 rushing touchdowns. And most importantly, anytime you see those huge box scores with like, oh, it's 5.3 yards per carry, but they had that 80-yard run. Yep. There was no run over 20 yards.
There were several good 20, chunk runs.
16, 19, 12. It was all good, hard runs. Mm-hmm. So to have Singletary at 4.8 yards a carry, Josh at 5.4, and Zach Moss at 7.8, all your primary ball carriers had strong games individually. And, it's Again, Joe Reed, always a consistent
This
supporter.
comment's
Appreciate
awesome.
you so much. Trying to follow this game from New York City on Red Zone because of the dumb Jets was a nightmare. Grateful for this and Greg and Aaron's tweets. Plus 26 for Motor. Absolutely a fantastic game for him. Aaron, what did you think about seeing the first real dominant run game of the season?
Well, I think it's been trending in this direction, right? Like we said last week that Devyn Singletary had a really nice game, but probably one of those weird, hey, it doesn't show up on the box score, but he's putting together a nice game. The week before that, they were able to lean on him a little bit more. So it's been trending in the direction of him really being Sean McDermott won't come out and say it in a press conference, but him being running back one in the feature
I'd
back
say
of this
23 carries for Singletary and
he's
5
the feature
for Moss.
Offense going forward. Absolutely. And he might be the kind of back that needs to get that bulk of carries to put up the type of production. Like it's rare in the NFL that you're going to get 20 something carries in a game, but he's shown when he gets it, it's productive. 20 carries for him in his time here as a Buffalo Bill. He was running like rookie Devyn Singletary. We saw explosion out of him on those 20+ yard plays. Even on some of the other ones, when he finally, had the patience and then found the hole, I thought it was somebody else in there and then I saw it was 26 coming out of the pile, like the way the explosion that he was running with. So I love everything that we're seeing here. And I said it, I was on the tailgate talk with Joe Marino this week. And I've been talking to you about it, Greg, of really needing to gain confidence in this run game and get Devyn Singletary going. We've seen teams historically, when we talk about teams playing their best football and heading into the playoffs, we've also seen them build up the confidence. I'll keep saying it. And getting this built up in Devyn Singletary, this is going to be massive for the Buffalo Bills to win games in the playoffs. People talk about, I've already seen 2 comments in our chat here about Bills need to build a dome. They're not a team that can play in the weather. Well, they just won another game in the weather. They've had bad weather all year, but you're going to have wintry games in Buffalo this year in the playoffs when they get a home game, and wherever they end up traveling on the road at some point, if they travel on the road, there's probably going to be bad wintry conditions there too. Like this is winter and you're in the AFC. Most teams don't have a dome. So having that ability where if Josh can't throw or is having a day where a defense is taking some stuff away, we've seen some defenses with this too high safety shell take some stuff away. To be able to open things up with the run game is going to make a difference. I know analytics, Twitter, and there's a lot of people out there that'll say, abandon the run, never run the ball anymore. But I'll tell you, this Bills offense operates at a different way when they're able to get Devyn Singletary going. And then I think it does open up some stuff for the pass game. And Anthony hit it, that physicality that comes with the run game. Once they started getting that going, the physicality changed on both sides of the ball, and they were able to really start establish dominance in this game. So this is the Devyn, we talked about Isaiah McKenzie game last week. This was the Devyn Singletary game this year. And I'm so happy for him because it's been a real weird ride for Devyn, but I like what I've seen from him. If they can improve the offensive line this offseason, I'm all for keeping Devyn Singletary as the feature back going forward.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Real quick question here. Dave Arena, always a consistent supporter. Appreciate you very much, Dave. Does the 3-way tie between KC, Tennessee, and Buffalo give the Bills the 1 seed? I know it's unlikely, but wondering if it's on the table. So as I've played around with it and looked at it, the fact that Buffalo beat KC kind of cancels out the Tennessee beat Buffalo, but all the different scenarios because of the conference losses, I'm looking, it does look like maybe the best the Bills can do is a 2 seed. I found scenarios where Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Kansas City have all been 1 seeds in different scenarios. Most of them have the Bills as the 2 seed. So it looks like that's in play where the Bills could be the 2 seed and maybe have 2 straight home games if they were to win in the playoffs. But I haven't found any scenario where they can be the 1 seed. So I don't know if that's possible right now, but we'll keep digging.
Will they be able to put a dome on the stadium within the next?
I will check my sources. I think within the next 2 weeks, they may be able to put that together. We'll see where it goes. And
thatch a dome together, get some beavers together
with bamboo stuff.
Like an intricate layering concept. Mirage Patel, appreciate you very much, man. It's a great way to
all
do
jokes aside, you mean to tell me if like the Bills came out and were like, we need Bills Mafia to rally to put a dome on this stadium, I legitimately think they'd get it.
It would just be a bunch of broken
Legos, polyurethane sheds
tables and stuff. Yeah.
Porta potty doors and
we'll patch it together with bubble gum and duct tape of broken tables that we've
old JP Lossman jerseys and
that's funny. That's good.
obviously, we talked about the run game that carried the day today. That means that the receiving core didn't have a ton of opportunities. We're talking about 11 completions, not Josh Allen's greatest day. Even a couple drops mixed in there. Stephon Diggs, 5 for 52. Gabe Davis, 3 for 40. Cole Beasley, 2 for 22. I like that we saw Isaiah McKenzie snaps. He was in there on some read options with Josh. He got one pass, he got one carry, but obviously not the same as what we had saw last week. And that's what we predicted, that he would be in that role. So, Aaron, any thoughts on the receiving core, good or bad? I thought they were okay, but given Josh's rough day, they didn't have a great opportunity to perform.
Hard to judge, right? The wide receivers in this game, but I think I was a little frustrated. Diggs dropped that one in the end zone. I think that's very uncharacteristic of him, but sort of to me, kind of showing a little bit of the season Stephon Diggs has had, where he's making catches and he's still productive. He is a number one wide receiver. He's tough to guard, but just a little less efficient, right? Like that's what we've seen from him so far this year, where there's a surprising drop here or there, and that. You do that throughout an entire season, those numbers come down a little bit. And I think he's still having a great season. I'm going to try and take anything away from him. But it's that argument of, hey, feed Diggs like a true wide receiver. And it's like, well, they are, but then there's some problems on the communication of routes, or he's making a drop or something like that. I want to see. Our
man Dom, always a great
thanks, Dom.
number one premium member, always in there with us. Appreciate you very much, Tom.
Appreciate you, man. The other thing is it would have been nice to see if Josh could have kept going, because it looked like Gabe Davis was going to have himself a game the way he was playing in this game. Yeah. It was nice to see him back on the field. I hate to say it, because I've been a supporter of Emmanuel Sanders the whole time. Didn't feel like I missed Emmanuel Sanders with Gabe Davis out there, and his ability along the sidelines. That one that Sean McDermott finally got a challenge to go his way. What a beautiful catch. I say, like, every time he has an opportunity along the sideline, he just comes up with a play.
He makes plays.
Yeah, and it's not a coincidence anymore. Like, I'm not a big believer in coincidence, and if you continue to do it, like, that is who you are. Like, that's who you become. So that is who he is, and I think he just continues every single time this guy gets out on the field to earn reps. It was like we were talking with McKenzie. Like, I'm not willing to give McKenzie over that role after one good game, but when you continue, like Gabe Davis has, every time you get on the field to make plays, it's hard to keep you off. So outside of not really being able to judge this group, it's good to see people getting back healthy. It was good to see Beasley back healthy. I know Beasley had that miscommunication with Allen on that interception. People were real frustrated with him, but he made some nice plays in this game when they got him the ball. And I think good to also see for Twitter, the people that were either, hey, Beasley's really great and we can't take him off the field, or McKenzie's the next greatest slot wide receiver in the history of the NFL and we need to play him as much as possible. There was the middle ground. Like most arguments are somewhere in the middle. I'm interested to see the overall snap counts later on tonight, but I think it was a good thing to pull back both those crowds and say, okay, they're going to use both guys in a rotation like we all anticipated.
Yeah, but my nephew Colton celebrating the Bills clinching the playoff spot there. So hey, Colton, watching with my mom.
Happy New Year, Colton.
The situation, Anthony, where back-to-back games where the offensive line doesn't give up a sack. Now you add in 44 carries for 233 yards. Certainly a little different caveat with this opponent. It's not as impressive as doing it against a New England front, but still a whole nother game with Lauren saying, Aaron giving Twitter too much credit. It's always possible. This offensive line performing in the way that they did, again, second game with no sacks. The box score is going to say there was a sack. They're counting that Stephon Diggs end around as him being a quarterback, and AJ Terrell tackled Stephon Diggs. So it's going to look like the Falcons had one sack.
Another really stat for AJ Terrell. He's fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It honestly did show his performance today. But
but another day, Allen bailing him out a number of times too. I still hope they got Allen a very nice present this Christmas.
Yes. I think 3 quarterback hits, and I'm sure we'll see a handful more pressures. But I also joked there was one play where Josh stood in the pocket, bouncing on his toes, and changed his mind 6 different times, and then took that shot downfield to Diggs to try to go for a touchdown instead of the check down to Knox. But he sat in the pocket for like 7 seconds to do that. So what did you think about the O-line play? Again, obviously we'll know more when we get the All-22.
I've said it several times on the show. I think it's always nice to come in to a post game and there's not like an individual play that stuck out. Usually when that happens, that means your offensive line did good. If there's something that doesn't immediately come to your mind, that nothing flashed, you're like, okay, like no one had a play.
I got one that immediately came to mind. How about the obvious corner blitz that was coming off of the edge, and I see Deion Dawkins go inside, and I'm like, oh no, it's a free rusher. And Mitch Morris bounces out from the center to pick up the corner blitz. It was beautiful. Like I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic.
He had several of those in this game. Mr. Eric Turner put out a tweet, I think last week or maybe earlier this week or the week before. I don't know. He puts out a lot of stuff and they're all fantastic. About how Mitch Morse is so good at those pop sets and he's coached to do that. So, he drops back and the guard and tackle set.
Wait, sorry, I have to interrupt you for more money. This is purely just from Joe. And again, another Cover One Premium Slack channel member, always active with us in there. Interruption money. We are open for all interruption money, especially Swedish krona.
Please continue. I'll take the interruptions all day. And I know there's one person that would like to hear me talk less apparently in the chat. So that interruption will work out fantastic. Those pop sets are great because it takes advantage of Morse's athleticism and it works. He sets the width of the pocket and the guard and tackle set the depth. We saw that multiple times in this game. I literally have tons of plays and notes written down of just pop set to go back and watch on the film. And I'm excited to go back and see the film because there's nothing that sticks out immediately that was like, this was a bad rep. This was a bad play. I want to see what happened with this. And we started to see more movement in the running game. And again, another game where we're starting to see pin and pulls be able to take effect and impact the defense. We're seeing runs where Morse is getting out in space. Darrell Williams is getting out in space. Spencer Brown got out in space. Ryan Bates got out in space. And to be able to have a successful running game is a huge thing for this offense. And I don't want to take anything away from Devyn Singletary or Zach Moss or Josh Allen, but you cannot have a successful running game at all without a good unit up front executing to some level in some degree. The Bills offensive line started to execute in the run game. That's where the conversation starts for me for this offensive line. I know we're a pass first team and the pass protection is there, but I think Josh, knock on wood, at this point has established the fact that he's good at that pocket manipulation, avoiding pressure. I put a tweet out earlier, I forget the exact number. I think coming into this week, Josh had been pressured 228 times, which was the most in the entire NFL, but his percentage of pressures to sacks was only 11.4, with which out of quarterbacks with at least 30 dropbacks, that was the fourth lowest. It was like 41st or 42nd out of 45.
And that was single digits for a long stretch of the season. And he was number one in the league for a while. He's gotten a couple recently that knocked it down, but he was single digits and number one there for a while.
And he showed a couple reasons why today. There were some plays where Fowler got in and the pressure got there and he's stiff arming guys and pump faking and shaking guys and making plays. So it's nice to see the O-line show some more consistency in pass protection. Obviously good pass protection is good for the Bills. It means Josh can have more time back there and be surgical, but the run game is a huge piece. I want the Bills to have that pivot. I think they need to have that pivot in the run game and showing them start to gain some sort of traction and something that they can hang their hat on. That's the biggest thing. This offensive line didn't have a thing they could hang their hat on. It's showing like they're starting to have that now with these pin and pulls and these gap attack runs, which is huge. And I hope Ryan Bates is okay. I thought he played well today. It's nice to see this O-line doing some good things.
The nice thing, just one comment, nice thing if Bates isn't okay, I think Feliciano seems to be back healthy, and I still don't think there's much of a drop-off between all these interior offensive linemen there. But I'm going to pull back a little bit on this offensive line. I'm excited to see the way they've played over the last couple of weeks. I think that maybe we need to grade them a little bit on a curve over the past couple of weeks here. The Patriots were not pinning their ears back and rushing Josh Allen, right? It was more of a contained style. Those pockets looked maybe a little bit better than
rushes.
Yeah, than things were in this game. You really need to win those matchups, right? We did the preview show. Even Eric came on. I was like, we're not going to get at Josh Allen. He's going to be able to sit back there all night long. And granted, you did.
It's okay to acknowledge that, but it's not special.
You came in and you did the job you're supposed to do against an inferior opponent, both in the run game and the pass.
Yeah, they didn't come out and dominate the Steelers' defensive line and move Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and all them.
This is still my number one concern going into the playoffs is this offensive line and that interior offensive line. And when you go up against some of these better teams, I still think it's going to be a problem. Maybe you're building up confidence along the way with some of these games where, hey, we can protect Josh Allen and do these things in this game. And maybe that will resonate throughout the playoffs. But I know that a lot of people are going to go out and give this offensive line credit. They're going to get graded well again. And people are going to say, hey, look, we're trending in the right direction. But I'm just going to say a little bit pump the brakes that these last 2 weeks maybe muddle that data a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, and obviously we're still going to need, if they're going to go on a run in the playoffs, it's going to mean beating multiple of Jeffrey Simmons, DeForest Buckner, or Chris Jones, we still need to see that kind of performance to be able to handle a premier interior defender.
Like Grady Jarrett's no joke, but he doesn't have a lot there with him.
They were able to focus on him and have a plan utilizing him to be able to go through. So let's pivot over to one of our first sponsors here today, and we will start with the West Her drive of the game. If you're looking for a vehicle here in the Western New York area, New York State area, West Her is going to be your top automotive option. They are the largest automotive dealership group in New York State, 21 dealerships all over the place, taking care of all of your automotive needs. And just for fairness, we are going to start with Anthony Prohaska.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I was not expecting this at all.
Just talk.
Some people don't like that. I'm torn on this one, and I'm gonna go with the defensive one for this game. The Bills come. Sorry, dude. The Bills. Now you know how it feels. The Bills come out, get the ball to start the second half after not executing a potential double dip to end the first half. They get an interception on a deflection that seemed like such a ridiculous deflection. The fact that it went right to the linebacker, like directly into his arm, it would just like fit perfectly, like someone placed it in there like a nice baby. It was just really upsetting. But the Bills, they get picked, and the Falcons start 1st and 10 at the Bills 25, and they proceed to go -3 yards to Cordero Patterson. Matt Ryan gets sacked, and then there's the Matt Ryan incompletion on a dump off to Mike Davis when he's trying to escape the pocket. They end up punting because of the wind, and then the Bills come out after that and drive 11 plays, 80 yards in 6 minutes and 36 seconds for a touchdown to go up and get a 2-pointer to go up 22-15. That offensive drive was up there for me, but it was that defensive one. The Falcons get the drive inside, almost at the red zone, basically. They're at the Bills 25. And the fact that the Bills back them up, don't even allow a field goal opportunity, don't even allow any chance for points for the Falcons. They get the ball right back for the offense. I thought that could have been a huge momentum killer for the Bills and a huge momentum additive for the Falcons to come out. You get another turnover again, and now you have the opportunity to put the ball in the end zone, or at the very least get a field goal and add to this lead and keep building, on top of that foundation you set in the first half. So the defense coming out and forcing Atlanta to go, 3 plays, -12 yards in 1:29. That's my drive of the game. It was huge.
And since you're a jerk and mentioned the other drive, I'll just use that as my.
I should have just mentioned all the drives that I thought you guys would take.
But obviously, there was like 4 in that stretch of the game where it could have been any. That's both sides of the ball.
I'll do that first one, that 11-play, 80-yard drive right off of yours, where they had the 3 plays, -12 yards. And one of the reasons I like that was Eric Farrell here, just to keep it real. Josh was at fault for giving up the tip on both those INTs. I loved how he pivoted the team to the running game to get the W. I would debate that a little bit, but you're right. He still put the ball in
that one
way.
Was a super athletic. Like that dude was a good 9 feet in the air when he took that ball.
Some of those, again, and it's not a matter of fault. It's that I think it's hypocritical how critical some people are when we also celebrate when he threads those needles and has those crazy laser throws of, oh my gosh, how did he fit that?
Or like he did last week when he threw across his body to the middle to Emmanuel Sanders and Jake Kumaro on the scrambles.
For a huge conversion to be able to do that. Like we celebrate those, but then we're like, oh man, he's got to learn to throw that away. Well, were you saying that last week when he converted the 3rd and 10 back to the middle of the field? Like he's a package deal. We have to take it all together. Today was some of that package deal. But again, my West Her drive of the game, right off of yours, Anthony, that 11-play, 80-yard drive, 80-yard touchdown drive, 6 minutes, 36 seconds off the play clock. And what I loved about it was it opened up with 5 straight runs, then a play action pass to Cole Beasley, then ended on 5 straight runs for a touchdown. 10 out of the 11 plays were run plays, converted for a touchdown, just asserted dominance, showed their ability to do that. And then I missed it earlier. I think it was maybe J.O. had a comment that 2-point conversion was a microcosm of the entire game, where it was panicked, looked weird, nobody knew what they were doing. Oh wait, don't worry, he's wide open, it's a touchdown, we're fine. Like it was just a perfect microcosm of the game. Aaron, where did you go with your West Her drive of the game?
Well, I was going to take that defensive one, but I think another consideration would have been the right after your drive. I really think these 4 drives in a row could have all been a consideration, where then they get another punt after that touchdown, because this game just really felt, and I said it all week long, you couldn't have this come down to a 1-score game at the end, because the Bills just, for whatever reason, luck or whatever it is, have not been good at 1-score games, and the Falcons have been the opposite. It was the last thing I wanted. And so my drive of the game will be that following offensive drive, where it was a 12-play, 65-yard drive, took off 7 minutes. So the drive entered into the fourth quarter. I think it was like one play before the fourth quarter started. So they took like 7 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter, got up by 2 scores. That really just was kind of the nail in the coffin. And the way they did it was a little bit of Zach Moss getting a little bit of run in this game. And then they went back to Singletary to finish off this drive, but it felt like 4 to 5 yards at a time. And just that dominant type of almost like a 4-minute offense in the start of the fourth quarter, where you're just like, hey, we're just going to continue to be physical and they're not going to be able to stop us. And you saw it all throughout that drive, establishing the dominance and ultimately putting the cherry on top of this game and clinching the playoffs for the 2021-2022 Buffalo Bills. So my drive of the game is that one.
Well, and I think you talk about the 2 drives together, it's 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Those 23 plays, 145 yards, and 14 minutes. And it really just took any hope out of
We've been on the other side of those drives in this era of McDermott defenses where teams just driving down. That's terrible, man. That's
where
frustrating.
You thought you had a chance. Hey, we can get right back into this. And then boom, over and over and over again. That was a huge statement. I think it's a great call. So again, check out our friends over at West or any of your automotive needs for everything that we do. But now we'll jump
I love
back
games when we have multiple choices, man. There's a couple this year where it's like, there's none.
There was one. I don't know. So obviously, this defense, and again, we'll take this with a grain of salt, not trying to crown them going against what's been a weirdly beleaguered offensive line, because like everyone has brought up, the Falcons have a ton of investment in their offensive line. They have a franchise left tackle that's paid a ton, and then every other starter is a premium draft pick, either a first, second, or third round pick. Most of them first round picks. It's weird that they're not better than what they are, but I thought Ed Oliver was dominant today. I thought Harrison Phillips had a fantastic day today. We had 5 sacks today. One of them coming on the corner blitz off of there, but Gregory Rousseau with a strip sack. It was just nice to see production across the board. So many guys looking good. Eli Ankow flashed for me. I saw strong plays, from multiple different guys. AJ Epinesa had a big time play. Multiple tackles for a loss. I thought it was a really strong performance, and I was happy to see. Again, we don't have that one dominant game wrecker, but having multiple guys flash.
Interrupt Greg to go. Matt Rollins here. I absolutely love the show. It makes me a smarter fan. Also proud of our boys setting a team record in season point differential at plus 177 was 165 in 1990.
Love that. Great pull, man. And exciting to be able to see that. And I think overall, I think New England smoked the Jaguars today, but the Bills still have the number 1 point differential in the NFL at plus 177. So very, very exciting to see that. Anthony, what did you think of the defensive line today?
Another one that I want to go back and see the all 22 to see. I felt like a lot of the sacks were just chaos causing from the front four, just kind of getting Matt Ryan off point and off kilter and affecting his drop, and then someone altering him and someone else coming through and cleaning up. Other than the Harrison Phillips one that was kind of straight back and go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Let's normalize calling Harrison Phillips the fire hydrant from now on. I'd like to make that a thing.
Fair enough. I'll continue. So the one sack where fire hydrant drives Jalen Mayfield back. Mayfield tries to plant and just slips a little bit. Fire hydrant gets through. Matt Ryan tries to step up and fire hydrant gets the sack. I just wanted to say this many times.
Yeah, you see how many you can fit it in.
I thought he played fantastic. This is another game. And even I tweeted it right after the game. The Gregory Rousseau strip sack. Kudos to Gregory Rousseau for continuing driving around and getting the strip sack. That play was caused by fire hydrant driving his man back again, and it gets Matt Ryan off his drop. It doesn't allow him to step up into the pocket. Instead, he has to avoid and move to the left a little bit, and Rousseau can just continue to trace.
We were told that he would have hustle cleanup sacks. So
and there you go. And it worked out on that one. I'll take it. A sack is a sack.
They're not as good as other sacks.
Yeah, apparently they don't count as much.
No, they definitely don't. You get only a quarter of a sack in the stat column for a cleanup sacks like that.
But it's a full pick when somebody tips it.
That is true. That is true. Actually, the tipped interceptions count double.
Aaron
so
is fully
two
triggered.
interceptions.
Yeah,
those were 2 interceptions. Harrison Phillips looked good. Oliver had a bunch of disruptive plays. I thought they were a little not poor, but Yeah, gap integrity was an issue again on several runs. I want to see it from the front as a whole, both the linebackers and the front, but I'm pretty confident that it was probably all Tremaine Edmonds' fault anyway, because that's what Twitter tells me.
Twitter was pretty mad at him today. Yeah.
They're always mad at him. He can do no right. The Josh Allen tipped interceptions were also Tremaine Edmonds' fault as well. I want to see what that front looked like collectively. So much of this Bills run defense, because they play with a light box, they're not going to have scenarios where they're going to be able to gap out against offensive units and be able to fill up every gap. So much of their run stopping ability comes from being gap sound in that front four. And then the linebackers, both Edmonds and Milano, and Taron Johnson, I guess, by extension, and anytime Hyde or Poyer come down and make it a 7-man box, they're all playing off of what's going on up front with the front four. So I really want to see what they look like in terms of their fits and run integrity, because I felt like that was lacking at times. Mike Davis and Patterson both seemed like they had several runs each where there was just a lot of space and a lot of room. But the pass rush was chaotic and havoc causing for the most part. Matt Ryan did not seem comfortable back there. Addison had a couple nice flashes. He wasn't able to bring Matt Ryan down on the one, but he had some nice pass rushes in there, including a couple on Jake Matthews, who's a good tackle in this league and by far Atlanta's best lineman. So nice to see collective production from this defensive line, which is what we should see when they're doing well, given how much rotation the Bills want to have up front with their front four. So collectively, a solid enough game. A little worried about the run integrity, but want to see what it looks like on the all 22 before we go through. And then, shout out to Fire Hydrant for playing really well again.
And I'll say, I know the game script got away from them, but it felt worse than 96 yards rushing, 22 carries for 96 yards. It felt like it was worse than that. So the ultimate, when you look back, the longest run was 13 yards. It was maybe not quite as bad as what it felt. Really, one long play from Kyle Pitts really was a huge piece of their overall production. So
I was
Anthony,
frustrated.
What did you think there?
I was frustrated a little bit with some of the gap issues in the run game. I think that's still kind of a problem with the Sean McDermott defense, and that having those lighter guys in the front. I think better teams will take advantage of it. But I think in this game, I think some people were frustrated with that. But like you said, the longest run was 13. If they're not going to give up those long 30, 40, field position switching plays in this run game, I dare you to have the patience to sit there and put together a long sustained scoring drive like that. Like New England Patriots probably, in Indianapolis Colts are probably some of the few teams in the NFL right now that have that type of patience to continue to hand the ball off and take 5-6 yards at a time and try to grind it out that way. It's just not the way the NFL is. And at some point you're going to make a mistake and the Bills are going to capitalize on that mistake. That's what this scheme, that's what this defense is counting on. It is a very traditional bend but don't break, even in the passing game. Like we're going to kind of sit back in zones at times and we're going to make you make mistakes, and maybe you'll move down the field a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to make a mistake on this drive and not be able to put together 3-4 scoring drives in a game. And so as long as they can continue to maintain that, I don't mind giving up some on the ground. Like Sean McDermott's talked about, yards don't matter. We don't care about how many yards you have at the end of the game. It's about what do we do when it comes to, do you put the ball in the end zone against us? Are we getting you to make mistakes? Are you punting, turning the ball over? Like that's really ultimately all that matters. And the Bills, for all their flaws this year along the defensive line that people want to talk about, they're still the number 2 DVOA pass defense in the NFL. There's top 10 run defense in this NFL. So as much as we want to sit here and critique these parts of the defense, like they also are doing some stuff right? Like DVOA accounts for those opponents, accounts for the lines they've gone up against. They're doing things right. They're probably still at the end of this week, still going to be top 10 in all those categories. So we could sit here and nitpick. We're not getting enough sacks. I think they probably boosted some of the sack numbers here today, but the pressures don't matter and stuff like that. But you saw today, actually, pressures do matter. We saw Matt Ryan a number of times come off his spot and not be able to really put a ball in. When he was able to stand in the pocket and fire a ball, that's when he made his nice throws of the game. When he was off script and again, out of pressure, that's when you had issues for him. So the thing I think that made me feel the best about this particular game, though, was Fire Hydrant, Harrison Phillips, really starting to come into his own. He's fully recovered from this injury.
He's now strung together multiple really impressive games.
Yeah, people for a little while were like, oh, this is another Brandon Beane boss. Like, this guy's not going to work out. We're going to have to move on from him. Now, in my opinion, I think he's a huge part of the future. I think he's a priority in the offseason.
I had people in my mentions telling me they're not sure if we can afford him anymore. I haven't gone that far. But I was like, how far Twitter swings is crazy.
Yeah, I think he's very much going to be a Buffalo Bill. I think he's part of the process. I think
I'll guarantee he's a Buffalo Bill next year.
Oh, wow. They want him in this building. He's a process guy. He's a Sean McDermott guy.
They're Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee back-to-back years is not leaving the building.
He is going to be part of this team, and to see him and Rousseau make that big splash play, like, makes you feel a little bit better that we haven't seen the development from the young guys in this group. We've seen Ed Oliver have a great season, but now, you're also getting Harrison having a good season. You start to get, Rousseau's, I think his roles change from what Bills fans expected from him. Just pin your ears back and rush to passer. He's more of a contain kind of guy, clean up sack guy, but seeing some of those things flash today gave me a little bit of hope for, hey, maybe we don't have to invest crazy amounts of assets in this defensive line going forward, and these guys can continue to develop. So that's always good to see.
Yeah. And I will say, a couple people had mentioned here, Eric Farrell saying, I'm a Tremaine guy, but didn't notice a single play made by him today. I had a couple negative notes for him today. There was one where he met Mike Davis at the line of scrimmage and went backwards with Davis for like 4 yards to get there. Those are plays where I don't need him to blow people up, but hey, like, you had a running start too. And I take that back. I apologize. It was Kadri Allison. And that, some of those plays are the ones where people get frustrated. So I'm not going to defend that. Now, I still think he had some good plays, and you didn't see a lot over the middle of the field in coverage. That's where he excels. But I get where some people get frustrated with him and want to be able to see.
Matt Milano also got pushed around a little bit in the run game too, and we don't pick on him in the same ways.
He never gets the criticism that Tremaine Edmonds gets. So I thought they were fine today. I don't know that it was anything special. I think the game script helped us where we got out in front later on, and they couldn't continue to run the ball because they were getting some yards doing that. So I didn't think it was anything special today. Aaron, what did you see from the linebackers?
Yeah, I think that I think one of the big criticisms that is going to come Tremaine Edmonds' way is Ryan got out of the pocket, was going towards the scramble, and look, Matt Ryan's not possible. He's not fast. You're not gonna, but he could have picked up the first down. If he stays in
coverage, he gets a first down.
Absolutely. Correct. If Edmonds stays, he's taught to, when the quarterback's coming out, like, you have a decision to make. You have a business decision to make in that scenario. Do you come up and play the run? And I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. When we saw that where Matt Ryan went down, he should have had the touchdown on that other play too. That happened again. But out in the open field where it was a matter of him getting a first down that way or throwing back against, you don't expect Matt Ryan to be throwing on the run against his body like a Josh Allen type throw, and for him to complete that pass. So I think people are killing him for that. And that's probably not the play to kill him for. I think maybe that Mike Davis one that you're talking about, getting 2 guys 3-4 yards down the field and then giving up some. What is that face for? I saw a face from Greg.
Because Greg typed something in the chat and said, "You're not wrong, Lauren," and then some parentheses Anthony, and I was about to respond. I was like, "I did not say that." That was
wait. I saw some faces. I was like, "Wait, am I getting made fun of here?" But yeah, not a great day for the linebackers in this game, but I don't think it's nearly as bad. As always, like they always say in the post game, it's not ever as good as you want it to be. It's never as bad as it looks, and I think that's probably true for the linebackers in this game.
Yeah, and obviously you switch over to the DBs here, and I think, again, they give up 13 completions, 197 yards. That's
what you get. That's what you get for impersonating me in the chat.
Yeah, I did. I'm being punished now. The stiff arm for Micah Hyde by Kyle Pitts is not going to look great. He's going to catch some flack in film study for that one. But ultimately, I thought they did pretty well. I was impressed with Dane Jackson. Again, they went after him a couple times. Aaron, you talk about it a lot, how like people underestimate. And I had this debate with my father-in-law last night watching the college football playoffs. Interrupt me here. Kelvin Hobbs, again, fantastic name. Great show, guys. Came for the first time after the Pats game. Keep it up. Playoff. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, man. How hard it is. People underestimate, just turn your head. And I was talking to him last time, like, well, think about it. Running full speed, chasing a guy down.
With a guy that has a step on you and knows where he's going and you don't.
Yeah, and they want you to just flawlessly turn your head, spot the ball at the last second, and get your hand on it. Even describing that, Dane Jackson did it twice and Levi Wallace did it once. And it was really like flawless technique. So I can't wait to go back and watch those and put up some of those clips. I was impressed with Dane Jackson, the times they tried to go after him. One ugly play to Kyle Pitts. Otherwise,
everyone
the rest
has
of them, I'm not really that frustrated with anything. And Kyle Pitts is arguably maybe the best athlete in the NFL. Like he's just a freak of nature. So before I pass it over to you, Anthony, here, Trigg saying if Allen's pass wasn't tipped an interception in the end zone, that would have been a touchdown. I agree. He had Stephon Diggs. It would have been a chance for one of those lasers we talk about, because he did see Stephon Diggs break open in the back of the end zone.
Sure.
It would have been an impressive throw if he pulled it off, but he had a chance for it there. Anthony, what do you think about the DBs today?
I was really impressed with that play early on from Dane Jackson that you alluded to, one-on-one with Pitts, who is a problem for anyone. The proverbial too big for defensive backs and too fast and quick for linebackers. Straight one-on-one. And the play that he made to run with him and be able to stay in phase enough and be in his hip pocket, period, is impressive, let alone his ability to get that head around and then get the pass break up. Really legitimate play from him. And then the nice one later from Levi that you alluded to on, I think, Darby, when he checked in, the rookie from Arizona State that Sanchez highlighted. So good plays from them. And even on the Pitts 61-yarder or whatever it was, Dane Jackson was right there and the ball was thrown a little bit behind Pitts, and Pitts just reaches out like while he's running full speed the other way. Yeah, just reaches back and it's like, nope, yoink, snatches it and then turns upfield.
Craig brings up a really important point I need to interrupt you about. There's 521 people watching simultaneously. Only 100 of you have hit the like button. I take that as a personal affront.
It's me. People don't like me.
I understand not liking Aaron. It's totally understandable. Yeah. Anthony and I are very likable. Like, it's you should want to smash that like button. My grandmother said I'm likable. It's fine.
She said I'm likable too.
That's I have documented proof. She said Anthony was likable as well.
So it's not us.
I know. I love Trigg's shot at Mark Sanchez here. You mean Dane Johnson? Because he mixed up Dane Jackson and Taron Johnson like 3 times during the game. That they're actually 2 separate humans. Anthony, continue.
That'd be interesting if you could morph him, though. I wonder what kind of corner you'd get out of that. Kind of like your Roquan Davis from Mario Davis and Roquan
best linebacker in the NFL.
That he'd be sick. So I'm interested to go back also and see the all 22, because I thought some of the sacks and pressures that the Bills defensive line got were due to coverage on the back end, making Matt Ryan hold the ball. So coverage continues to hold up. Again, it's just nice to see at some point, knock on wood, we're going to feel the loss of Tre'Davious White in some game. But at this point, we haven't had a game yet where it's just been like, God, we really missed Tre'Davious White today. And that's saying something, considering he's one of the best corners in the entire NFL. So
including
the fact
that Tampa game when that was a top possibility for it.
Very true. And that's not a good favorable matchup given the size and the speed that the Buccaneers wide receivers had. So I think it's nice to see Levi continue. I don't even want to say that Levi has stepped up, because I think he's been playing at a good level already this year. He's just continued to play at a good level. Dane Jackson definitely has stepped up, because we had no bar for him. He wasn't really playing this year. He's came in and played solid football across from Levi. Taron Johnson had a bit of a rough day today. He had several grabby penalties, a hold, and some pass interference stuff. But then he has that really nice sack on the blitz when him and Tremaine Edmonds come and they dropped AJ Epinesa out, which was a really nice call from Frazier and the defense.
He also had some nice following Pitts on crossers, which ain't easy.
Very true. Very true. No, if you're going to, I don't care if you're picking him up in zone or you're just straight man from the beginning. Kyle Pitts is a mismatch for almost anyone and everyone. But a collective solid performance from the defensive backs today. I thought it started with the corners performance outside and continuing to not be a liability or a vulnerability in the absence of Tre'Davious White. And hopefully they can continue on that solid play next week against the Jets, and then even more so in the playoffs when the competition ramps up and we may have to play a team that has Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and all these guys. So it's nice to see them continuing to build rapport and confidence.
Yeah. And outside of that Pitts one, like, you're not seeing this group give up. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, which is Levi has always done. And you're seeing from Dane Jackson is be in position. Yeah. And when you do give up a catch, make a tackle, right? Like that's super important in this defense. Again, back to the bend, but don't break style. I love right now what's happening with these cornerbacks, because we spent so much time in this offseason talking about, oh my God, that, everyone walked away from that Kansas City game clamoring, we need cornerbacks. Like these guys aren't going to cut it. Levi Wallace sucks. Dane Jackson, maybe he's good. And now you're seeing the tide has really turned. When I tweet about Levi Wallace now, like there's nobody in there being like, oh, he gets roasted all the time, he sucks. Like people are on board. When I say, hey, let's extend Levi Wallace, that's some of my most popular tweets this year are saying to extend Levi Wallace. So the cornerback depth we're going to get Tre'Davious White back next year. It might take some time for that ACL injury, but when he comes back and you have him, Levi Wallace, and Dane Jackson, man, now I feel great about this team, where a year ago I wasn't sure what the cornerback depth looked like, even at cornerback 2. Now I feel pretty good if they're able to keep Levi Wallace on this team. You're looking at a pretty good depth in this cornerback room, and that's a huge win for the Bills right now, especially with the league's trending, right? So love it, and I agree to you. Not only were they not a liability, but they were a plus in a game like this today.
Agreed. And I think, obviously we already talked a lot about Fire Hydrant today. So Harrison Phillips was originally going to be my player spotlight of the game. We've given him a lot of well-deserved shine. A couple people asked me, I actually believe that we are pretty much just going to give him Vernon Butler's contract as it expires here this offseason. So my guess is he gets 2 years, $3 to $4 million a year. Right now I have it at like 2 years, $7 million, 2 years, $8 million. We're lining up our Uncle Jumbo.
Yep, that's exactly what I was doing.
I like it. But I'm going to pivot over and give my Uncle Jumbo spotlight player to Devyn Singletary.
Son of a bitch.
We haven't had a chance to do that all that much this year. And I think that he really now multiple games in a row, 23 carries for 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. The first touchdown really hard running. It's about all you can ask for in those kind of situations, and really, really exciting to be able to see him turn into a legitimate part of this offense. And that, we're not all of a sudden going to become a balanced offense. We're not all of a sudden going to pivot away from being pass first, but to be able to be more effective than what we were before, especially in weather, is a really exciting option to be able to see. So, Aaron, where did you go with your Uncle Jumbo's player spotlight of the game?
Yeah, right to Devyn as well. I said it earlier. It was the Devyn Singletary game for me. Good to see him have some of that success. A little bit of flashback to his rookie year. Yeah, Morris had a really strong game too here from Jason M. Absolutely had a strong game, but I just think the way Devyn was running, the anger, the physicality that he's run with, and that's been building up again over the past few weeks. I think it's crucial for them to take that type of run game and the confidence in the run game into the playoffs. And so this game, I think we'll look back if they make a run in this postseason. I think we'll make a look back at this game and say, oh yeah, that's where the run game started to take off. So I think you got to hand it to him.
Yeah, before I go to that, I want to pull up this comics. I thought it was fantastic. Lauren said Levi Wallace was valedictorian at the Trey White Goalie Academy. I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
Lauren's also hysterical on Twitter as well. So if people aren't following her, she's really funny there too. So Lauren's always in the chat with us and always engaging with us on Twitter. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Very clutch. And I also wanted to mention, I tweeted it out. I'm super pumped to have some Uncle Jumbos for this game. Chris from Uncle Jumbos in coordination with Aaron hand delivered some stuff to me, and it's delicious and fantastic. So I'm pumped.
While you talked about them, a big reason why we love working with them so much is they're really similar to us at Cover One, and that Aaron and Eric and I, what we've kind of built here. Uncle Jumbos is a dad and 2 sons. Like it's Nick and Chris and Alex, and it's.
So is Eric the dad and we're the kids?
I kind of think so. It's not far off. So it's a family, 3 dudes in Clarence in a private space, kind of teaching themselves how to be a distillery and how to produce really high quality drinks for everybody. And it's just awesome to see that locally and to grow up that way. And we feel like we've kind of grown with them as they've grown as a brand. And it's just been really, really
and they
exciting.
think we say smart football things. So I like any.
Yeah, we've got them fooled into thinking we're not idiots, which is great. Yeah. So beyond that, it's been exciting. But Anthony, back. Oh wait, hold on.
Interrupt me. Got to do it.
Mark here. I knew today's game was going to be great when I heard AQ's voice in WGR this morning. Jokes aside, I love you guys.
Greg was on there as well, and actually, I called in to wish Nate Geary a happy birthday early in the morning because he's my friend, and nobody on the radio. He's like works for these guys, and nobody on the radio wished him a happy birthday this week. So I had to make sure that he got a happy birthday shout out.
Nice. And you did an awesome job on Joe Marino's tailgate talk going on Lockdown Bills. I thought you were awesome on there. I had a chance to go on with Nate today in WGR, so we were all over the place. You can't get rid of us.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. Nobody invited me anywhere. I was by myself.
Yeah. So Anthony, since nobody wanted to talk to you today, why don't you talk on this show?
That's fine. I was alone with a bunch of jumbos, so I had a great Sunday. So thank you, Chris, for dropping this off at my house and giving me some. It's going to be a clean sweep for me for Spotlight Player of the Game, Devyn Singletary. Not too much to add. I just thought it was really solid how patient he was and his ability to win in multiple ways one-on-one. His ability to run through defenders, his ability to shake defenders, and the proverbial make guys miss in a phone booth. Really nice to see him continue to stack these back-to-back games of solid plays with solid chunk yard runs where they're gouging the defense. That's a huge thing for this team going forward. So yeah, clean sweep for me.
And I think that's, obviously shows the kind of game that he had here and the exciting potential that we could see the rest of the way here with Devyn. So exciting to see what he does there. And we'll flip around now to our special teams and coaching. We'll start with special teams. And I think that it's interesting to be able to see, again, the second game. And Aaron pointed out there's some reasons that we didn't see a punt, but 2 games in a row where, Matt Hawk didn't have to punt the ball. So that's always fun and exciting. I love when he doesn't really play. He just had to hold for 3 extra points today. Again, Marcus Stevenson, it wasn't actually a muff. Like he had the punt, but then helmet on the ball. Directly on the ball.
He did almost muff another though.
He had another one that he did muff, but he recovered his own.
And then he just kept running into people on all the returns. Like
I'm into Singletary. Like I don't feel comfortable with the ball handling. I like what he does when he gets the ball and he's explosive. We've seen explosive. I'm in that range now with where I was with McKenzie. People would come at me because of how hard I was on McKenzie. So I just wanted to clarify that for people. Like I'm kind of there. Like when the ball's in the air, I don't feel great.
Yeah, and I mean that's the right take. I like what Stevenson does when the ball's in his hands. He has, good returns. His 19-yard punt return was nice.
Awesome.
And aggressive going straight up the sideline. But that's the same thing we had with McKenzie. We didn't have any issues when McKenzie had the ball in his hands. It was decision-making and
I would say Stevenson's decisions. So everyone also alludes to just the fumbles and the muffs, and that was not Isaiah McKenzie's only issue. There was also I had issues with when he, Stevenson's been much more aggressive at coming up to field punts. Like all that stuff matters too. So I still give him a little bit of the edge, but yeah, man, the trustworthiness of when the ball's in the air until it's secured. Whew. Don't like that.
And then you add into that, I thought the special teams coverage was great today.
Yes.
Didn't give up any big kick returns, didn't give up anything special from that direction. And certainly there was an opportunity to, when you have a safety punt, when Matt Hawk's not a booming punter, to be able to launch it down there. So overall, I thought that
Tyler Bass made one interesting just because he can. Then he
curve. You're right. He's been perfect on extra points this year. He doinked one in off the inside
just to show that he could maybe.
Yeah, Anthony, anything you noticed on special teams today?
No, Stevenson was the big standout. Like we all kind of spoke about. The ball security was concerning for me, and I mentioned to it like jokingly when you were speaking, like just his returns. It just seemed like he was consistently running into his own blockers, and I don't know if maybe the footing because of the field and the weather conditions had contributed to that. Because we've seen him be elusive in the open field, but at the end of the day, I'm not raking him over the coals too much, but not a great game from him. But I thought coverage was really solid again against a dangerous returner in Cordero Patterson. Bass was solid, and no Matt Hawk punts equals a good offensive performance for the Bills. So I'll take it.
And then I think you combine that with the coaching. I thought I liked the creativity early from the play calls, and then I liked the comfort level in the pivot over to the run game. I think some people were looking for maybe a little bit more blitzing from the defense, but honestly, when the defensive line is getting you 4 sacks and then you get another one on a blitz to be able to get through from that direction, it's really hard to take issue with the way that they handled things. Then you talk about the aggression. He went for it on 4th down. We ended up having Stephon Diggs was open for a touchdown, but got interfered with. So that got a first down option there. And then you saw, honestly, kind of some cowardly decision-making from Arthur Smith. He punted the ball from the Buffalo 32 while he was losing. And like, I get it. If the wet one, Young Hoku's got a hell of a leg, and it wasn't that bad of weather. 50 yards is doable. And I get it. If your pregame warm-up tells you that, hey, 49, 50 yards is too far, we're not going to do it, fine. But go for it. You netted 12 yards on the punt. Heck, just throw a jump ball at the 5-yard line. There are 4 things that can happen, and a completion, a flag, or an interception are all better than what you got with a 12-yard net punt. I mean, it was just a really weird decision by Arthur Smith. And I think that, with a back against the wall, you have to win scenario, we would be killing Sean McDermott for that decision. So I'm not going to give Arthur Smith a pass on that. I thought the Bills clearly won the coaching battle today. Managed time well, gave themselves opportunities. Josh threw an interception, so it didn't matter. But the time management at the end of the first half to go for the double dip was the right way to handle that. So I thought today was a strong day. McDermott won his first challenge of the year. It's kind of sad that it took to week 17, but whatever. He won a challenge.
Will appreciate that one.
Yeah, he won a challenge today for the first time. So, Aaron, what stood out to you from a coaching standpoint on either side?
Yeah, I think one, adjustments in that second half where you start out the game really well. You were about to go up by 3 scores and you get an interception, and then things kind of unravel in that first half, and they end up taking the lead, right? They're up by 1 going into halftime, and you're sitting there standing. I think a lot of teams maybe kind of unravel in a moment like that, and they got their team together and kind of reset. And I think that starts with coaching, that leadership council that we hear so much about. I think that just kind of trickles through this locker room, and they came out in the second half and took care of it. Even the second half, you come out and throw another interception, the team doesn't unravel. I think that's strong coaching, strong leadership on this team. I think all that stuff matters. And then you saw, the things weren't working through the air, and we've heard how stubborn, people say how stubborn Brian Daboll can be in a game where things aren't working. He just keeps going at it. Well, he changed up in this game and threw another look and went with the hot hand and went with what was working in this game. So my hat's off to him for, I think they wanted to come out and throw with Josh Allen and expose this Atlanta defensive back. Go ahead, interrupt me. Go ahead, throw it up there.
And Patton does bring up here that McDermott did once punt with the playoffs on the line in the snow game. It turned out well. And I always argue with that one because it was such a weird game and such weird scenarios. Although he should have gone for it, I don't think it was quite as egregious.
Sure.
As this one on the opponent's 32 when you're losing with the playoff games on the line. But Patton's right. McDermott did do that in his first season here in Buffalo.
Yeah. And so I think hats off to Brian Daboll for being able to adjust in this game. I think they wanted to expose that Atlanta defensive backfield. It came out with the idea that they were going to throw the ball all day. That wasn't working, and then they dominated them on the ground all day. So hats off to the coaching.
Yeah, my mom's saying that how likable we are. So
Thanks, Mom.
She's
smart. Happy New Year.
Chris with a good question here. So I got this a ton on Twitter. Why wasn't the Matt Ryan run a touchdown? His knee went down, but he
doesn't have to be touched anymore.
He was
Today's
not
NFL.
Touched as he slid into the NFL. A new
quarterbacks try to protect themselves, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, they made the rule that because defenders cannot touch them on a forward or legs first slide, that means you're down by contact immediately when your knee touches the ground, not where you slide to or not where you end up
when you give yourself up.
Correct. And they said that any slide is considered giving yourself up, not even if you dive forward. So running, you see Josh do that sometimes. That's why he kind of barrels forwards and makes them tackle him, because you give up yardage by doing that. So this actually happened to Washington earlier this year with Tyler Heineke on what would have been a game-winning touchdown, and they lost the game because of this on a 4th down. So obviously, I don't think that the Falcons were going to get back into this game, but it would have cut it to 1 score. It certainly would have mattered. Would have made that last drive matter more for the Bills. So the reason is because of player safety, the way that they structured the new rules. As soon as his knee was down, and then you compound that with he thought he scored, so he taunted Jordan Poyer.
I hate the taunting rule.
The new NFL in a microcosm. Like
if he would have scored, he should be able to flex in that moment. Like Matt Ryan's one of the slowest quarterbacks in the NFL. If he scores a touchdown on your defense, he should be able to dunk on every single one.
Poyer hit him kind of like a little late-ish in the end zone. So
into
Ryan
the end
was
zone.
fired.
He hit him into the end zone after it was a touchdown.
Yes.
And Ryan
so what?
I
hate the taunting rule. It's so dumb, but it worked in our favor. So
yeah. So I'll take credit for it, but you're right. I hate both of those things, to be honest. They're both dumb rules. But that was why. That was why it was not a touchdown. So we'll see where that goes. And that kind of closes things out for us in the game recap. So Anthony, we'll start with you. What were your final thoughts here today, and what are you looking for going into next week? Actually, I take that back. Before I do that, let me lay out a couple different things. The way that the Bills handled business today and the other games that were in place, the Bills are currently the 4th seed in the NFL playoffs. There's a couple things that could affect that, but for the most part, that's pretty solid, because even if the Chargers, Steelers, or Browns win, they would not change that. So the Bills will end this week in the 4th seed. It could affect who the lower seeds are. The Raiders beat the Colts, so right now the Colts are the 7th seed. So because of the Titans winning and the Bengals beating the Chiefs. The Titans are the 1 seed. The Chiefs are the 2 seed. The Bengals are the 3 seed. The Bills are the 4th seed. The Patriots are the 5th seed. The Raiders 6 and the Colts 7. So right now it would be the Bills would host the New England Patriots in the first round of the playoffs. And if they won, then travel to Tennessee in the second round. And the other side of the bracket would be the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Colts, and the Chargers or Raiders. If you could sign me up to lock that in right now, that the Bills would go Patriots and then Titans and have the Colts, the Chiefs, and the Bengals all on the other side of the bracket, sign me up. I'll take it right now. But that's where things stand as of right now. We'll go through all the scenarios Wednesday night. I know our man Dom played with the simulator. I think he's correct. There's no scenario where the Bills can get the 1 seed. If the Bills win and the Chiefs and Bengals both lose next week, the Bills could get the 2 seed. There's plenty of scenarios where they could end up in the 3 seed, but 2, 3, and 4 look like the most likely. And I don't know the scenarios here. They have not clinched the division yet. So I think there's some scenarios where if they lost next week and the Patriots won, the Patriots could take the division. So I think in every scenario, next week game against the Jets matters to the Bills. They have to play their starters. They need to be focused on winning the game and going into the playoffs hot. But that's where all the seeding falls and where the games are. And now, Anthony, to you with your final thoughts.
I kind of don't want to play the Bengals because of how good their receivers are, and I'm worried about Trey White. That's a thought that's in the back of my brain. And Trey Hendrickson on the outside. I think Trey Hendrickson is just motivated by how much you slandered him this offseason, Greg, and said that he wouldn't do anything, and now he...
One of my biggest whiffs of all the free agents. Dude, he looks so
I don't
good.
want him to come back. But in all seriousness, 2 big ones. The adjustment to pivot to the run game a little bit in the second half, I thought that was great by Brian Dable. That was a huge takeaway for me. We have another game continuing in this theme of sample size where the Bills are making the proper adjustments, whether at the half or from drive to drive, quarter to quarter, that ends up in a beneficial way for the team and leads to a win. That was a big one. Second one, big takeaway, the play of Josh Allen. You have to, I started it off with the whole Wayne Gretzky fantasy hockey scenario, but Josh Allen's legs are 1,000% a part of his game. So sometimes this 1, is just 1,000%. There's a lot of people who love when I say 1,000 and just people who love when I talk a lot. So it's just fantastic.
Just focus on those people.
Yeah.
I even like the way the Bills
guys.
handled that this year in that I don't want Josh having 12 to 15 carries every game all season.
Yes.
But when it gets into clutch moments, clinching playoff games, and in the playoffs, he's a weapon. Use him.
Yes. That's part of having a dual threat quarterback. Dual threat means 2 threats. So if one threat, I know it's crazy, right? It's French. It comes from the French. I don't even have a joke for that. Forget it. When you have to account for both aspects, it's something that helps your offense. So if one of those threats isn't working, lean into the other threat. Or even if one is working, you still have to account for that in the back of your mind. Today was a day where Josh didn't really have it with his arm, whether it was due to what Atlanta was doing or what the weather or what was going on for the Bills, any one of the factors and variables, whatever have you. But the Bills were able to lean on that other. Oh, appreciate you, Chris. Thank you so much. 1,000%. I like how he said 1,000%. That's great. The fact that the Bills were able to lean on that aspect of his game, that's part of who Josh Allen is. So, yeah, would it have been awesome if he also threw for 300 yards and was perfect, 100% completion percentage to go along with the performance he had for his legs? Yes, that would be fantastic. But this is who he is. He's a dual threat QB. You can win in a variety of ways when you have a dual threat QB. The Bills were able to lean on one of those threats today with his legs and his running game. And what I think that means going forward is the Bills are going to have games where they might not have a certain piece of their offense that's clicking. And for the majority of the year, it's been the run game collectively for the offense. But it's nice to see that if they don't have it clicking with the passing game, they have the ability to lean on Josh's legs or potentially Devyn Singletary's legs or even Zach Moss's now with how they've been able to find some things with that offensive line in the run game. So that's a huge takeaway for me going forward. The adjustment that Daboll made at halftime and how they attacked in the second half, and then the dual threat, the duality of man that is Josh Allen. He had a strong game today with his legs, and that's who he is. And then what it ties into with this offense going forward, because if they can run the ball, whether ideally it's not Josh, but if they can run the ball as an offense, it's a huge piece because it complements the passing game, but also means they can hang on their hat on something other than just going with 4 wides and trying to pass it up and down the field.
And boom, you see, Josh Allen's one of those guys that he needs his legs to be able to play football. John Madden. I love
That was a good
listening to
Madden.
so many
yeah.
John Madden quotes over the last
Yeah,
little
I'm
while
still
here.
sad about it.
Aaron, what are your final thoughts taking us home?
Yeah, I would love to have heard Madden call a Josh Allen game. He would have just loved Josh
Just
Allen.
like Favre. Just like Brett
He
Favre.
would have loved him
been
like
right
Favre,
there.
1,000%.
He would have loved him. His
Yeah.
style of play,
He's
putting
just
his
a football
shoulder down
player.
the hurdles.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So my final thoughts are the Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs again. There's such a weird year, a roller coaster of a year. I know some people think I overemphasize how many people were talking about firing McDermott like a month and a half ago, but these YouTube comments were full of it after some of these games. And to get in the playoffs, you know, my in-laws are here. They're Patriots fans. God bless them. But they were very nice watching this game.
Is he now
with
the
me.
second winningest coach in Bills history?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were just like, wow, good for you guys. Like really good. Like after that long stretch of 20 years to be just continuously now
4 out of 5,
continuously be a playoff caliber team. Like, you know, people kind of made fun of that coach speak, playoff caliber. Well, now that's what this team is. That is an expectation going in every single year, regardless of what happens going forward. I remember having conversations with people on message boards before Twitter back in when the Bengals would get into the playoffs every year and they wouldn't do anything. And I remember saying, man, I would love to have that problem of being a playoff team every year and just having that opportunity to punch a ticket. Because once you're there, really any year could be your year and it can happen. And here the Bills are an imperfect team heading into the playoffs. Not guaranteed to win the division again. That Jets game is going to be more annoying than it looked like it was going to be probably a month ago. Like I still think the Bills will win that.
The
game.
Buccaneers took them lightly today and were losing until the very end. The Jets had them until like
Jets have been
fourth
playing
quarter.
well for themselves for their brand of football, that bottom of the NFL football. They've been playing fine, and so that's going to be an annoying. They're going to want to upset the Bills from winning the AFC, so that's going to be an annoying end of the season game here. But hey, seedings, we'll talk about it. I think everyone knows how I kind of feel. I don't care about scenarios. I don't care. Line us up against it, but whatever team you got out there in the AFC, I don't care. I'll play anyone, anywhere. I think this Bills team can beat all the teams. You know, I think some mismatch. There's some matchups that I don't particularly love, and that can go for any of these playoff teams. This team is such a high and low variance team. When they're playing towards that high level, there's not a team in this league, I think, that can stop the Buffalo Bills. If they're playing at their low level, all those teams present problems for us. But I'm really excited. I don't think there's any runaway favorite right now in the AFC. God, in the NFL, I don't think there's a runaway favorite. So this is a great year to punch a ticket and be in. And I don't care that they don't get the one seed. I don't care how many home playoff games they get. I'll play anyone, anywhere. I think this Bills team can hang with any of the teams in the playoffs. So I'm excited for this next month plus of football, hopefully, and doing more shows with you here for the next month plus.
Absolutely. Rick Beam here saying, you think the refs sit back and laugh at all the pass interference calls the Bills get or don't get? It really is absurd.
They did get one. Diggs finally got called on the pass interference. It ended up in points.
And I'll say Jason here pointing out that, you know, the narrative that they should have won because they gave up 470 yards. Listen,
yards doesn't matter.
The Jets were up 24-10 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So if you're up 24-10 in the fourth quarter, you certainly can win.
And they went for it on 4th and 2 with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left from the Buccaneers 9-yard line, and they got stopped, and then Brady drove down. So
and whether or not they should have won, they made that a football game.
Correct. They had a 24-10 lead on the Buccaneers late into that game. That matters.
And it ruined Antonio. Something happened that ruined Antonio
and they made Antonio Brown quit football.
Yeah.
Man. He went with the Vontae Davis method. Just more public.
So obviously, you know, there's so many things on the table. 3 different teams can still get the 1 seed in the NFL or in the AFC. There's still 10 teams that still have a playoff shot going into next week. There are so many different scenarios that can keep things alive. It's really, really exciting. The Bills can be anywhere from the 2 down to the 7 seed. There are so many different scenarios that can bounce things around. And it's exciting to be able to be in a position, like Aaron said, in the craziest up and down season that we've ever seen in the NFL. All you need is a ticket to the dance. Just got to get yourself in there, have a chance to go in and do this. We know the Bills have the talent. We know they're inconsistent. We know that they're frustrating and that we can't put together the kind of complete games that we need or that we want to see. However, when I continue to say everything's on the table, all the options are on the table, everything could happen, you want to know what that means? that could mean a one and done scenario where they're out in the first round of the playoffs. You want to know what else that could mean? It could mean 4 straight wins and a Super Bowl win because they are one of the most talented teams in the playoffs. And every other team, like we've seen the Chiefs and like we've seen, again, the Buccaneers almost fall to the Jets today, and the Patriots losing, and the Colts lost to the Raiders today. The Raiders aren't any good, and the Colts lost to them. Everybody's afraid of the Colts. There are so many different scenarios here. Just get in, and you can go on the run that you need to. Someone is going to win 3 or 4 games to win a Super Bowl. Someone is going to win a Super Bowl after having an embarrassing loss this year, because every team in the NFL has embarrassing losses this year. Someone is going to win a Super Bowl that they arguably might not deserve. I am completely fine winning a Super Bowl that we don't deserve. I don't care how it happens. Just get in, give yourself a chance, and be able to go on a run when it matters. And the Bills now have that chance.
I won a Super Bowl. That's not the only, yes, last year you got to the AFC Championship game, and that next step is winning a Super Bowl. But even those 90s Bills, we've seen people post Facebook parallels where, hey, that team didn't come back that next year or in 88 or whatever. They didn't come back in 89 and do well, and then went into that run. Progress isn't linear. Like it's not Super Bowl or bust. I do want a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. There are no moral victories, but even, continuing to be a playoff caliber team that wins playoff games and is one of the best teams in the NFL is the best problem the Bills fans and Bills Twitters ever had. Like, let's have a little bit of perspective here that this is a great problem to have. We're going to be one of the better seeds in the playoffs, play good playoff games. They're probably going to win at least one. Like, this is fantastic. And then they're still in play for the Super Bowl.
Sorry, man. Jay Money, appreciate you very much for the generous contribution. And I got news for you. The Buffalo Bills are going to be good for 10 more years purely because they have Josh Allen. I don't care about the cap space. I don't care about what draft picks happen. I don't care about what free agent signs. The Bills have a window as long as 17 is wearing a Bills jersey.
Right. Yep.
And that's not changing for the next long time. So enjoy this. Get used to it. We're going to have these kind of conversations every year. But today we appreciate everybody that made this possible. Our friends over at West Her, the top automotive group in New York State. Uncle Jumbo's the great guys over there making all those things possible. Stop over and see them. Pick up some stuff right from their store or all the different locations all throughout Western New York. Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code COVER1 to download the Underdog Fantasy app. Get yourself some free money. On behalf of Anthony Prohaska and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One.